Hello, welcome to Ecology lecture video number 2. This one will begin, we're going to start talking about this term niche. It's an odd term. It means a lot of things in the biology world. Generally, when you hear the word niche, we are talking about the role or way of life of a species within its environment. Huh? What does that mean? Well, in this picture, I'm showing you all these different birds. Okay. And they all seem to inhabit the same tree here. You don't need to know what competitive exclusion is, but the picture does what I'm trying to explain justice. So all these birds live in the same tree. What they have figured out a way of doing, these birds, is competition has excluded them from some of the resources each other may need. All right. And because competition has excluded them from certain resources, they only can survive within, let's just say, a limited number of resources in this tree due to competition. So each one of these birds, for example, depending on where they're at in the tree, they may be feeding on different things associated with the tree. Some may be feeding with the actual parts of the tree. Some might be feeding on insects or worms or organisms that live on the tree. Some may be pecking into the tree and taking stuff within the bark or within the trunk of the tree. So they all have different sorts of food that they're into eating. All right. So their role or their way of life, they have slight differences in their niche, meaning they can eat and get nutrition from different things. So they don't all have the exact same role or way of life, even though they may all live in the same tree. It's kind of a weird concept. So what does it mean? Well, it means a lot of things. What range of conditions can they live in? So if I say, do they live in moist, humid, tropical weather? That would be part of their niche. Okay. If I tell you they eat certain insects, that is part of their niche, what they eat. All right. If I say they need a specific tree to reside in or habitat, that is part of their niche. Okay. How they get their food, whether they forage, whether they hunt, that is part of their niche. Do they have a lot of children or babies when they mate? That is part of their niche. Okay. So all these factors, so many things are part of their role or their way of life. Are they a top predator? Are they a grazer? Do they eat plants? There's so many things that go with this term. So be careful. It includes a lot of things. Organisms are classified usually as generalists or specialists. We humans, we are generalists. We are not specialized. You would think we are specialized, but we are not specialized. Generalists, okay, what are they? They are species that can live in a wide range of conditions, okay? Possums, like in the picture here, these guys feed on almost anything. Pick your favorite thing, they'll probably eat it. Like rats, they will eat anything pretty much. Okay. Specialists, species, so humans, even though humans won't necessarily eat anything because we choose what to eat or not to eat, but we have a wide range of foods that we can eat. So we are generalists, humans are. Specialists are species that like have a very limited, narrow niche. Okay. So they can only tolerate a low number of conditions. Very simple. So for example, koalas, they only feed on eucalyptus trees, the leaves of eucalyptus trees. So if you were to take a koala and put it in an area where there isn't eucalyptus trees, they're going to die because they will not be able to eat. So they have a very limited diet that would make them a specialist. Humans, our diet is very wide ranging. So we are generalists. Producers. Who are the producers in an ecosystem, or what are the producers? The producers in an ecosystem. Here's what you got. You got over here, you got plants. Okay. Over here, you got algae. Okay. Over here, you got phytoplankton. Over here, you got cyanobacteria. So plants, cyanobacteria, algae, plankton. These are the producers. What do they produce? They produce organic stuff, sugar, food. How do they generally produce it? Well, the green ones produce it by doing photosynthesis. The ones that live on the bottom of the ocean, the archaebacteria that live on the bottom ocean, they do chemosynthesis to produce their organic stuff. So, what are producers producing? Food for an ecosystem, basically. So, we call them the producers. Um, and these are the examples of them all right here. Okay. Don't forget chemosynthesis at the bottom of the ocean. They are producing organic stuff from sulfur, which is inorganic. So they're using the energy in the sulfur to help create and along with carbon dioxide, help produce carbohydrates and other organic stuff. So it's not just photosynthesis, it's chemosynthesis that produces organic stuff also. So measuring productivity. So now we just talked about producers. They make the food. So let's just pretend that's all they make is sugar, even though they make all organic things. All right. Some terms that come up. Gross primary productivity. Well, let me explain something to you. If you're in a business and someone tells you your business grosses a certain amount of money, that is not a really accurate assessment on how much money the business is making. Gross is basically overall. It's like, oh, the business has all this money coming in. That would be the gross amount of money or funds the business takes in a year. So let's just say a business takes in $1 million a year in gross revenue. Okay, I'd hope you understand this concept. Well, that business took in $1 million, but they had expenses. They had to pay electric bills. They had to pay employees. They had to pay insurance. They had to buy products to sell. By the end of the year, even though they said they grossed $1 million in revenue, they didn't see $1 million in actual profit. How much did they profit? Well, the net revenue is how much revenue that they would actually see in their pocket. So after you subtract all their expenses, okay, so primary productivity is overall. Gross revenue would be all the money coming into your business. Net revenue is how much money you have left over after you've subtracted away what you had to spend. So if you spend 500,000 and you grossed $1 million, you netted 500,000. Okay, so you didn't actually see all 1 million in profit. You have to subtract how much you spent on all the other stuff to get your net value. Well, we have net primary productivity and gross primary productivity. Okay, R means respiration. So let's talk about this. Gross primary productivity, this is the total photosynthesis that is taking place. Okay, so this is all photosynthesis that's taking place. Well, let's just assume plants are the only ones doing photosynthesis. All right, so they produce sugar, glucose. All right, some glucose is used to supply energy for the plant to do cellular respiration. So you have to subtract out how much is used by the plant to keep it alive. Then, so gross primary productivity is a total photosynthesis. You subtract out the glucose that is used to keep the plant alive, because that's not available for you and me to eat because they need to stay alive also. And then boom, we're left with the net primary productivity value. So that means you take how much production is taking place, how much photosynthesis is taking place, subtract what the plant needs to stay alive, and then the net primary productivity is actually what's remaining, and that is what's available for an organism to eat, for example. Okay, so the remaining glucose available is what we would call biomass. What is biomass? The organic material that has been produced in the ecosystem. How do producers make biomass? They do photosynthesis, they do chemosynthesis. Okay, so remember, gross primary productivity, this is total photosynthesis minus what they need to stay alive. That's respiration. And then you're left with the net primary productivity. This is what is available. This is what goes into making biomass. Okay, not everything they produce went into making biomass. Some was used to keep the plant alive. Okay. Oh, and by the way, let me make sure I let you know how you and I produce biomass. Like, for example, if you get chubbier, you've added biomass to your body. That means you eat. So consumers, things that eat, they add biomass to themselves by eating. Okay. They can lose biomass when they lose weight, but if they keep eating, they can gain biomass or keep it steady. That's why we eat. Plants add biomass by doing photosynthesis. Consumers add biomass by eating the plants or anything else for that matter. And here's net primary productivity. And I already explained it to you. So net primary productivity, you take the gross value, subtract the rate of respiration, and that's what you're left. Okay, and this picture explains that process. Terms you need to know, and I've been using this term already: consumers, things that eat, organisms that eat. And there's a name for organisms that eat. We call them heterotrophs. All right. Organisms that do, the producers are autotrophs. The consumers are heterotrophs. So if you do photosynthesis or chemosynthesis, autotroph. If you don't do those processes, you need to eat or take nutrition from your environment. You're a heterotroph. So consumers are heterotrophs, things that must eat or take energy or absorb nutrients from their environment. Fungi don't eat. They don't have a mouth, but they absorb from their environment. Okay, protista. Some of them can engulf, some of them absorb from their environment. Bacteria, they absorb from their environment. So these organisms don't necessarily eat. They don't have mouths. They may have to absorb their nutrients, but they don't produce it themselves. So they are heterotrophs. Herbivores, right here, plant eaters, strict plant eaters. Cow, elk, deer, rabbits, grazing. Grazing meaning they're eating grasses. Carnivores, strict meat eaters. Okay. Omnivores, you eat both. Like this guy, he'll eat an apple, and if he comes into your campground, he'll eat a fish. He'll eat meat, he'll eat a plant. This guy right here, bears. Humans, we are omnivores. Most of us are omnivores. So if you're a carnivore, you're a strict meat eater. If you're an herbivore, you're a strict plant eater. If you're an omnivore, you eat both. If you eat dead things, okay, if you eat dead things, this vulture eater, they're detrivores. They eat dead things. All right. They eat dead, decomposing matter, a lot of them. All right. Waste or dead material, that's the detrivores. And finally, the decomposers are the bacteria and the fungus. They are similar to well, let me give you an example. If you notice, fungi are here and fungi are here. Fungi and bacteria are detrivores, and they are also decomposers. Okay. But for example, vultures are detrivores, but vultures are not decomposers. The decomposers are only bacteria and fungus. Detrivores are things, organisms that eat waste or dead products. So bacteria and fungus are detrivores, are decomposers. But only bacteria and fungus are decomposers. All right. Make sure you understand that. We wouldn't call a skunk a decomposer. We wouldn't call a vulture a decomposer. We would call them detrivores. We're going to stop there for this lecture.